Well, chapter 5 opens with the rest of this world that was lost. The Cain and Abel story is so portraying of Christ, but chapter 5 talks to us about one who could walk with God, one man who could walk with God all alone in the world. What an unbelievable life Enoch had, and the first 20 verses portray his life. And even the generations I shared with you many weeks ago, Adam means man, and Seth means appointed, and Enosh in verse 6 means to moral frailty. In verse 10, Canaan means sorrow, and verse 13, Mahalel, means blessed be God. In verse 16, Jared means shall come down, and Enoch in verse 19 means teaching, and Methuselah in verse 21 means his death shall bring. In verse 25, Lamech means despairing. And in verse 29, Noah means rest. And so there's kind of a little message in the 5th chapter. And the message is this, that man, through sin, was appointed to mortal frailty and misery and sorrow. But blessed be God who came down, teaching that his death shall bring the despairing rest. Even in the genealogies we saw as a promise of salvation. But Enoch walked with God. And he lived in the worst time on earth, and there were only 8 descendants of Noah that would survive, and one Enoch out of upwards of billions of human beings. And only Noah and his family and Enoch were righteous. And the world was so bad that God swept it all away. And through it all, there was one light shining that never went out. There was one voice speaking that was never silenced, and there was one life lived that could not be bought, bribed, or wasted with selfish gratification. And that was Enoch's. And Enoch was God's man. And Enoch will always be an example of standing alone for God. What an honor that Enoch walked with God in the most demonized, the most defiled, the most depraved, the most debauched time on the planet, where everyone, except for Enoch and later some of his descendants, Noah and his family, everyone else, God destroyed. He was 1 in a billion, and he walked with God. How did he do it? Well, verse 20 tells us, it says, or verse 21, Enoch lived 65 years and begot Methuselah, and after he begot Methuselah, Enoch walked with God. And verse 24, Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. And the writer of Hebrews adds, because before this time he had this testimony that he pleased God. That's why on the front of our bulletins, we have this little comment, committed to pleasing God. Did you know that's a summation of all the Bible teaches? If you want to distill down what we're supposed to do, we're supposed to do one thing, please God. That's what Paul said, 1 Thessalonians 3. That's what Enoch did. That's what the writer of Hebrews said was the characteristic that caused him to be 1 in a billion. He didn't want to please himself. He didn't want to please the world. He didn't want to impress the people around him. He lived for one purpose, to please God, and he did. And Enoch lived in dark and hostile days that were totally unfriendly to his faith. And it was so inhospitable that finally in the time of Noah, the earth was corrupt so much in God's sight, God said, I'm going to destroy it. But Enoch resisted the sinful gravity of his culture, and he walked against the tide for over 300 years. And he put his sights on the goal of the city of God, God's place, and he walked the same path. He strode in step with God's pace, and for 300 years of faithfulness, he walked with God. And what's amazing is, he didn't have any of the revelation that we hold and can easily thumb through. He didn't know everything we know about God. He just knew that God was, and that he would reward him if he diligently sought him, and so he said, I will. What a testimony to us, what God offers us. Well,